Hey, what's up guys, Ali here from Sports Templates, and today I have a great surprise for you. This new Nike Air Jordans template will be on my website, sportstemplates.net, for absolutely free. This is a fully featured premium quality template with dynamic lighting, 7K resolution, and it's editable down to the stitching color. And in today's tutorial, we'll be doing this Miami Heat / Miami Vice Jordans. To follow along with me, pause this video, then go to the link in the description and get your own copy of this template, and let's get started. Once you download this template and open it up in Photoshop, this is what you're gonna see. And for this tutorial, I already made a little library here with all the design elements and colors I'm gonna need in this tutorial. You can find the link to this design library in the description below. So you can just load it up into your Photoshop and you can follow along as well. So to get started, you can see we have all these layer folders here. We can just go to editable parts, shoe. Inside this folder, we have two different folders, one to add design textures and patterns, so we can just map any image or text or pattern on top of the shoe, and the other one is just flat colors. So if you just want to change color, it's a little bit easier to edit. So in our tutorial, we're gonna be starting with the colors and then we'll add something else in the textures. So to get started, let's open up the parts, flat colors folder, and then scroll all the way down and start changing the colors of the shoe. So I'll start with the sole here. So I have this dark bluish color here, so I can just click on it and you can see the color already changes. Moving up, I'd like to go white, same for this part, and then for this part as well. Moving on to this part, I also need it to be black. Then going on to the heel, this is where we're gonna start adding the gradient. And for the gradient, I already have a gradient layer here. You can double click on it and it's gonna open this gradient shape. What you need to do is just right click on it and copy layer style. Now we go back to this layer and we right click and paste layer style, and you can see that this gradient is already applied to it. If you need to change the gradient, you can just double click on it, go to gradient overlay, and with this layer selected, you can just click on the shape and move the gradient however you want. But for now, something like this should work, so I'm gonna leave it at that. So we can start moving on. Here we have the stitching on top of it. As long as it's clipped like this, it's gonna be the same color, but if we just go to release clipping mask, you can see it's gonna have its own separate color. And for that, I think just having it clipped would look nicer, so we just go back to create clipping mask so we can have the stitching be the same color as the shape below it. Moving on, we need to add, now we get to this part, the top part here, and we just also do the same thing. We can just go to paste layer style, so we can paste that gradient on top of it. And the same thing goes for the stitching, and I'm gonna keep it the same color, so I'm not gonna change anything here. Moving on, we have this part of the shoe and we just make it this kind of dark black color. The same thing goes for the stitching, but then when the stitching has the same color, it's really hard to distinguish it. So what you can do is double click on it and try to kind of make it a little bit lighter. So kind of something like this, so you can still see there's stitching, it's just a little slightly lighter color. Now moving on to this part, same thing. So we go to the stitching as well and pick this color and then just make it a little bit lighter until we see a difference on the design. And then we can pick this side as well, make it dark as well. Same thing for the stitching, and then make it lighter. Now this part of the design, we need to add a gradient here, so I can just paste layer style and it's gonna add it here. Now it looks a little bit too pink, so this is a nice example of where we can see how we can change the gradient. So when with this gradient overlay selected, we can just move and try to drag the gradient on the shape here, so we can see where it's kind of where it looks. We try to find a place where it seems like it's kind of transitioning from the edge of this part to the edge of this part. So I feel like something like this should work. All right, click OK, and then we have this part that's in blue. We just make it white, and then the stitching's gonna stay white as well. This part is for this small shape back here, so we can just make it white as well. And then for this top part of the shoe, so we can just make it black as well. And then moving on, the tongue of the shoe, I'm gonna make it black. So pretty much here, everything's gonna be black. Just picking these shapes one by one and make them this dark color up to the laces here, and then make them dark. And then we need to go to the swoosh and go all the way down to this layer, swoosh color, and then just make it dark. Then do the same thing for the stitching, make it dark, and then a little bit lighter. And then we can also change the stitches overlay here. We can see like there's this white overlay, so if you want to just make it the same color, we can just do this and double click on it and just make it kind of lighter to kind of go with the rest of the stitching on it. And that's the swoosh done. So this is our design pretty much 90% done. Now what's cool about this template is that the Nike swoosh is actually layered on top of it. So even though it looks like it's sitting on top of the shoe, like it's part of the shoe in here, you can just turn it off and then add whatever logo you want here. So, and to do that, we can just go to add embroidered logo, and here it says your logo, and you can just add it here. So if we open the add embroidered logo folder and then scroll all the way down here, we can see that your logo here, and we have a guide under it, so you can see exactly where your logo is gonna fall on the shoe. So I have this Miami logo, so I'm just gonna open it up and then drag it into our design. I'm gonna try to move it around to kind of fit the design. So probably I'm gonna tilt it a little bit like this and make it a little bit bigger. All right, now hide the placeholder logo and the guides. Then let's make it all right. Now let's see, and let's see how we did. So now if we zoom in, you can see that how this logo kind of sits on top of the shoe, and it just looks totally custom, and it makes your design look as if it's a really custom Jordans. Now one more thing we can do is change the Air Jordans logo here. You can use any logo you want, but if you go to top patch here and scroll all the way down to this layer, ankle top, double click on it, and you can see the Jordans logo here. It's fully editable, and you can add your own logos, but for this one, we just want to match this gradient. So what we can do is right click and paste layer style, and you can see that it's gonna add that same gradient on it. So we can just choose the gradient and try to do something like this that's kind of close to what we have on the shoe. Now let's make this one dark and let's save it. And now we have this look. It does have sort of an embossed effect on it, so if it looks too strong on lighter colors, you can just go to drop shadow here and just lower the opacity of it, kind of make it more realistic, kind of something like this. Now we're pretty much done with this design. One last thing we can do is change the background color. So what we can do is go to background here, background folder, then go to BG color, and for this one I think a darker one looks pretty cool. A couple more things I wanted to add is the ability to add your own patterns. So if you turn on design textures patterns here, you'll see all the parts of the logo that can be mapped out on it. So let's say we want to add a pattern here. Let's hide everything else so we can just have it. So we can open it up. We have a separate stitches color layer here. It's kind of universal stitching color in case you want to change that. So we can just hide it, and let's hide all the rest of the layers. So I just want to keep the main layer here, which is this one. So we can open it up, and I already have some sort of a Miami inspired pattern. So if I make it a little bit bigger, kind of like this, I can just select it like that and then go to edit, define pattern. It's called pattern 5. And then we can just hide this and hide it, go to any layer, and then just go to pattern overlay, and let's go all the way down. Now we have our pattern and it's all mapped across the design. So we can just save it, and now you can see how it's kind of mapped out on to the shoe. So this is available for each and every part of the shoe. So in case you want to add your own patterns or your own designs or images, you can do that. And if you just want to do solid colors, you can just go to parts, flat colors layer here. Also, one last thing is the dynamic lighting layer. So if you turn it on, you can see you already have an extra light kind of turn on. And this is a layer where you can just change how the light reflects onto the shoe. So for example, if you go to hue saturation, double click here and move this slider, it just changes the light from one side to another on the shoe. So let's say we want some sort of a top down light, you can do that. And then if you go to the channel mixer, we can change the intensity of the light. So if you drag down this green layer, you can see that the light intensity is being lowered. And then if we increase this red one, you can see that the spread of the light is increasing. So let's say we want something like this. You can also play around with the blue to kind of see how that affects our light. So let's say we want something like this. All you need to do is save what you did, and now you can see that we have this extra light on top of the shoe. If we want the light to be more intense, we can just go to opacity here and then increase it, and you can see how we have this extra light. So we can do that at the end if in case we have different design elements where we need specific lights coming from specific angles of the shoe. And with that, I've shown you all the features of this template. One last touch we can do is change the patch here. So all of this text is editable, so we can just do Miami Vice, then paste the gradient here, and then it looks like it's pretty stretched out. So you can just align with layer, and it's gonna look like it's just on the layer like that. So stretch it a little bit, and now we have this cool effect. And instead of mockup, you can just write something like heat, and now we got this cool Miami Vice Heat Jordan's concept. Took us a few minutes to create, and it's absolutely free. You can use this mockup however you like. You just have to credit Sports Templates if you use it on any website. Because this one is free, this is the only way you can pay me back, is to share a link back to my social media profiles. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So if you use this template, please mention Sports Templates in the credits so people would know where you got that mockup and they can use it as well. And I can't wait to see what you guys are gonna do with this template. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one.